Hey there folks, welcome to this video, and F1 is about to get underway for the Turkish Grand Prix. I'm talking about F1's end racism message ahead of the race. This is something that I've been talking about at every Grand Prix this season, to some degree. It started at the Austrian Grand Prix, the season opener, where 14 of the 20 drivers knelt before the national anthem at the Austrian Grand Prix. There were all kinds of other things before it became enshrined at the British Grand Prix as part of F1's pre-race events by the FIA, such as it being hidden from the world feed at the Styrian Grand Prix, or the whatever it was that happened at the Hungarian Grand Prix, where it just seemed like there was a lack of organisation or coherency, especially from organisers. So yeah, from the British Grand Prix, it was allowed to be part of pre-race proceedings, and since then, we've seen 13 drivers kneeling. Kevin Magnussen has joined the likes of Max Verstappen, Carlos Sainz, Charles Leclerc, Danny Kvyat, Antonio Giovinazzi, and Kimi Raikkonen in not kneeling. And yeah, this is part of a wider conversation around things such as We Racist One, and of course the movements such as End Racism. And I think it's quite important to talk about today. Max Verstappen is now second on the grid, and the person who starts in pole position, Lance Stroll, was verbally abused, I can say, by Max Verstappen, using terms that are ableist and racist. Verstappen still hasn't actually been criticised by the FIA or Formula One for it. Verstappen still hasn't apologised for it. The government of Mongolia, who were offended by the racist language, still seeking more kind of justice in the situation, and fair play to them. I hope they keep it up. Because in the year that F1 says We Racist One, they've chosen to race in Saudi Arabia. They've had Aramco become more prevalent as a sponsor. In the year of We Racist One, we see F1 not taking a stance when a driver wears an iron cross on their mask at the End Racism protest. We see F1 announce the We Racist One logo, with the colours of the Progress Pride flag kind of changed into the colours of the 10 teams, but are not being addressed to the LGBT plus community. Instead, it's for the key workers. Because when you have that kind of rainbow, that is for the key workers, isn't it? Yeah, because otherwise you might annoy governments in places such as Hungary and Russia and Turkey and the UAE, Bahrain, and Saudi Arabia. And of course more, but these are ones where we've been going and racing. F1's We Racist One message is incredibly muddled, and that is by design. The same with End Racism. Because if they really wanted to end racism, Carlos Sainz would have been held to account for the jokes that he made during lockdown. Max Verstappen would have been held to account for the insults that he threw at Lance Stroll. Kimi Raikkonen would have been asked not to wear a mask with an iron cross on it. Yeah. I mean, Danny Kvyat hasn't shown up to this one. This isn't the first time that Danny Kvyat hasn't shown up to the End Racism protest. But he's someone who's been a revisionist on racism in Russia, buying into a similar kind of narrative that Vitaly Petrov, who's a pundit now and was nearly appointed as a steward for the Portuguese Grand Prix, also espoused when he made homophobic remarks. Let's remember that. In the year that F1 says We Racist One, and they try to put this We Racist One message, they try to, and very nearly have, a homophobic steward, an openly homophobic steward that they know is homophobic, stewarding a Grand Prix. They have, driver making remarks that are racist, and they don't hold him to account. They have a driver with an iron cross on his mask at a protest against racism, and they don't hold him to account. They announce a race in Saudi Arabia. And they go racing and end the season with Turkey, Bahrain, And the Circuit Yas Marina, Dubai, UAE. We definitely race this one. Yeah. It's really hard to think of words. And as I get to the point where I'm wrapping up this video, and I've done over a dozen of these, to find it hard to believe I can't really find the words to say more than what I said in the first race. For shame. At least it's made me value 3 drivers more. Lewis Hamilton, Sebastian Vettel, Daniel Ricciardo. The amount of stuff they've done to address their past, address the present, and reflect on the current geopolitical landscape has been fantastic. So, for shame on the sport and on some of the drivers, but I've got to say, I'm still proud of so many of them. Thank you for watching.